Welcome to my studio today. I am working on one of my limited originals of a painting of mine, Portofino Reflections. And a limited original is a high quality Giclee on canvas that I go back in and embellish, or paint on it. And the reason they're called limited originals is because each one is part of a limited edition, but then I go back in, since I go back in and paint on them and add special little elements for my collectors who have commissioned me to do this painting, each one is original within that limited edition. So that's why Jack came up with the term limited original. Now I showed you a picture of this piece before I did any embellishing on it. Now I'm in a process of glazing, and I also showed you my glazes. What I mix is, I mix an oil color with some liquid original, and this makes a thin wash, and then I can just come back in and just richen up the color, make the color a little more rich. And I'm using in this, the back part of the ocean here, this is Portofino, Italy, and just this back part of the ocean I'm making a little bit darker with a mix of ultramarine blue plus the liquid. If I get it a little too dark, I can just come back in with my toilet tissue and just lift up some of that color. Got that a little bit dark. Now as I come forward, I want the color in the water to become a little more intense, so I'm using my ultramarine blue here, and then I'm going to switch to using a mix of phthalo blue plus my liquid original. And that just makes the color a little richer. You can see how that's getting richer. And that's, that richness, that brightness, that intensity of the color helps bring the water forward. Here's the liquid original. This is what I use to mix my oil washes. And I just need to put out a little bit more. I didn't have quite enough. And you keep these washes very thin. And again, if you get too much on there, if it gets a little bit dark, then you can just come back and lift it off with some toilet tissue. And I use toilet tissue to wipe my brush as I paint, and all these different little, like, lift off the color and all, because I use it 2 or 3 times. I wipe my brush 2 or 3 times and then I throw it away. If you use paper towels, you have a tendency to hang on to them too long, and then you end up getting paint all over yourself and your face and everything in your studio, and it's much easier if I just use the tissue, and that way you get rid of it quickly, and then you don't get paint all over everything. But again, I let this get a little bit darker as we come forward. And I add a little variation as I come forward, so there's just variation within the water. And this, again, it was there in the original painting. In the reproduction, the colors are not quite as intense, so I just come back and add that intensity. That's the fun of these limited originals. It's just fun to come back and add to them. But this, again, is just a wash. This will dry. By tomorrow it'll be nice and dry. Now as I get back toward the land back here, the water gets a little less intense, it gets duller, so I go back to using my ultramarine blue. And just come back here along the shoreline and just bring that blue back in here. And this is my ultramarine blue plus the liquid original. And this just makes the water a little bit darker back here, adds a little bit of contrast. And the blue part of the sky I went ahead and also glazed with cobalt blue plus white, or cobalt blue plus my liquid original. Now if you noticed on this boat right here, that boat is the blue. I'm going to make that a little bit darker, and again, this is my ultramarine blue plus liquid original. And this band along the bottom of the boat is just a little bit darker. So we just use that glaze to darken that up. reflections in the water. It's not just a smooth transition there. But this is how I begin doing my limited originals. I like to do all the glazing first, just to bring that richness back. And that just is the beginning. Now I'll go back in, I'll come back and I'll repaint on the flowers. Like on my sailboat, I'll add whites in here to accent it. The castle on top of the hill up here, I will glaze with a mixture of my liquid original and probably some burnt, burnt umber. Yeah, probably use burnt umber. It's not a color I use real often, but it's good for glazing. But you can see how that just makes that water a little richer as we come forward. So I will show the complete step-by-step process of embellishing this piece on my blog. And it's not all videos, there will be some step-by-step photos, but I'll explain what I'm doing. And so the link is in the description below. So please subscribe to my blog. You can also subscribe to my YouTube video. And I just appreciate you following me. And just, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments section. And you just have a blessed day. And come again. Happy painting.